Everyone, great. Thanks for joining us today. So this is our Talent Search EOC proposal writing workshop Q&A. We've got this whole lunch hour, at least my lunch hour. We can talk about anything and everything proposal-wise, because otherwise we're not supposed to on federal time, right? Unless it's the weekend or after hours, things like that. Let's see, a couple of updates. I think when we met last, we already knew, I believe, about the SSS awards coming out. I do know that no new SSS projects were funded in the first slate. I believe people are receiving notification on the funding band about new programs. The cutoff was 113.33, I think, Teresa, right? So the highest a new program could have was received with no prior experience points, somebody going for new, was 113. So there was no way. So, keeping that in mind, see how competitive it was. It's always been competitive for EOC and Talent Search, so we're used to that. But now it's finally hitting SSS, where no new projects initially were funded. Doesn't mean they're not going to get funded. It means they're on the funding band. So that just lets me know what's up with that. Also, waiting to get feedback on the technical review sheet. I'm desperate to find that out. I have a gut feeling that, unlike in the past, I don't think we're going to have too many of our clients' proposals that scored a perfect score. I think the readers found issues with one or more parts of the proposal, but because they had prior experience points, they were able to beat the cutoff. So that's just my gut feeling. So I cannot wait. And I know people are really, really happy they got refunded, but my next email to them was, congratulations, but I need your reader scores. I'm desperate to find out how they scored, where readers took points off. Why? Because I want to share that not only with us, but I want to share with y'all what we found out through the SSS competition, because it's pretty much going to let us know what will be expected or where we could possibly lose points moving forward. So if you guys have any close colleagues or friends that are SSS directors that got refunded, ask if they'll share their scores with you or their technical review form so you can see where they lost points. I don't think, like in the past, my gut feeling that we didn't have a lot of perfect scoring proposals. I do know that we have 2 that are in the funding band that were brand new, so they scored perfect scores. But I also know in the past that the readers have been more critical of the continuation proposal than they have of the new one. And I'll be able to show you once I get my scores. I'll say, look, on these new proposals, the readers said everything was perfect. Same language, same situation was used on a continuation proposal, but they found something wrong with it there and took a point off. But it didn't cause the project not to get funded because they had prior experience points. So Teresa, I don't know if you have your reflection on what you've noticed with the folks that did get funded and also in the funding band, but that's just my gut interpretation as to what I think has happened this time around. I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Yes, Lisa, you're spot on. Basically, that's the same thing that I've experienced from the field as well as the grants that I actually wrote. So, yeah. And most of my, yeah, so that's definitely what my feedback is as well.
Okay, and anybody out there who's got an existing SSS and a talent search, could you mind sharing, in the chat, or if you want to speak up and or just let us know, yes, this is probably this is what I've experienced so far, or have you gotten your reader scores? Let us know if anybody on here is also with SSS. Would be great. Don, I don't know if you can you do that, launch that poll as to how many EOC and talent search people we have with us today? And the chat should be up and running, and also the Q&A. So we're trying to find out who's with us right now, so Teresa and I can kind of direct our questions or get ready to answer that kind of questions here. So let's see here. Just have a few of y'all responding, of the ones that are responded. Let's see here. Gosh, completely even right there. We stopped right there. Wow. I was talking to somebody with EOC, and I was trying to shift between EOC and talent search in the needs section. And the EOC needs section is so much harder for me, Teresa, than it is for talent search. You know, a lot of the data collection, you know, for your baseline of your objectives. Thanks, Donna. We got 44% more talent search. You know, for EOC's objectives, there are 4 objectives. The baseline for how it is for the target area are tough. I mean, I can find maybe national data to compare it to, but the data for the target area, I got to talk to people. I got to ask them what their best professional judgment is, or look for local reports and things like that. So I'm going to be drafting a set of questions that you could possibly, you know, use as a way to start the conversation with folks you'll have to meet with pretty much in person. I don't know if you can get this information as much, or it'll be get back to you as quickly as if you've sent it to them online. Maybe you've got that kind of relationship with your target school people in the community where you can send it online, but you're going to have to get a lot more, I think, feedback from, or qualitative assessments from your target area folks. For example, to come up with a baseline for the percentage of folks that apply for admission, the percentage of folks that apply for financial aid from the target area. It's really tough to get that nationally for anybody, let alone adults in the target area. So just putting that out there, just thought about that when I looked at how many people were here from EOC. So do we have any questions to start off, or anything y'all want to talk about? Let me know in the Q&A. I wanted to open that up to y'all. See if anyone had any questions.
I have a poll I can launch about their progress so far.
Okay, that would be great. And then that'll also trigger if we can review those timelines. And I think I uploaded it, so I'm going to, if y'all could do that, I'm going to go over to the Google Drive and open that up. I had it open up earlier, but I don't know, Donna, it keeps closing on me. I know that it's not the Google Drive, it's me. I keep doing something that closes the Google Drive and takes it back to my regular drive, I guess. And what I'm going to do while y'all are answering that poll is I'm going to bring up the revised let's see, activity timeline. Drafting like a machine, I'm stuck in the needs section. Yep, you'll probably be there for a while, so don't feel bad. Haven't started yet. Let's get that started. I'm editing the previous version. Okay, if you could take that apart and start updating, especially the needs section and the quality of needs section, applicant and community support. Those tend to take the longest. We have a question here. Maybe discuss your best guess on when the CPPs will be. Teresa, do you feel comfortable telling what your gut feeling is on the CPPs? It's kind of up in the air right now. I honestly don't worry about that right now. I cannot worry about that. I worry about what I know for sure, or I don't know anything for sure. But based on the 2021 application, I concentrate on those and dead last on the CPPs. But I'm going to turn over to Teresa. There's been some recent, and we talked about this briefly last time, discussion about what the potential CPPs could be. So I'm going to turn over to her.
Lisa, give me a second. Let me pull that up.
No problem. Okay, we'll come back to you.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and share the infographic just so we can get on the same page. So let me bring up, where is it? How come I can't see it right now? Let's see, Lunch and Learn. No, I uploaded them. Oh, maybe under, you'll see here. Here it is, timeline. Okay. I forgot where I put it. All right, so this has been revised quite a few times in the timing. So let's have a discussion about this. This is for EOC, and the talent search one will follow close behind. But we've adjusted this because we did not start in July, but we're going to act as though we're starting right now, okay? But well, we haven't, but even if you start right now, this is the timeline we would recommend that you follow. Begin collecting your target data that demonstrates need. And even before you do that, draft year one budget based on the 24-25 funding minus carryover to serve the same number of participants. Donna and Leo, we may tweak this to put this first bullet first, and now that they're going to get their GANs pretty soon, we might tweak that in the next couple of weeks to say sorry, base it on whatever you're gonna get for 25, for 25, 26. Minus carryover to serve the same numbers, folks. So right now, you don't have that, so you can go based off of 24, 25. And I actually would do that first now that I look at this. August, start drafting your applicant and community support section, either draft or update it or from before, if you already have an existing program. Begin collecting your letters of commitment and MOUs from your GED centers, your satellite offices, workforce centers. If you are working with high schools, because there's not a talent search program in the area, start looking at that needs assessment results and quotes from target area GED centers, colleges, and community-based organizations. And that was the piece I was talking about when I met with the client just last week, when they asked me, how do I get this information? Who do I talk to? And I was saying, well, it's not only who you talk to, but it's exactly what you ask, specifically what information you try to get them to give you. So we came up with a list of those questions. And it really depends, it takes time. So you might want to start that earlier than August. But September, draft your quality of personnel section based on the budget, draft your plan of operations section based on the budget and personnel section, or update and review it. And then review your data that you've collected so far and draft the needs section. In October, you want to draft the evaluation section and your logic model, wrap up the data collection with quote survey results, finalize applicant and community support sections, finalize your quality of personnel. November, finalize plan of operation, finalize evaluation plan, finalize the budget based on your 25, 26 GAN, right? Draft your objective section last. Notice how we do that last. And then in December, finalize need, finalize objectives, draft the CPPs. Finally, in December, I'm looking at the CPPs, assuming that this will be due in late January or in the beginning of February. Finalize your proposal, your CPPs, table of contents, abstract, all the GEPA, program profile, all those things. You can check out the one for Talent Search as well. It's very similar to this, and I'm probably going to do the same changes here in a second, so don't fall in love with it, but definitely the budget and needs section, ASAP, closely followed by the applicant and community support section. Those take the longest to work on. If you have an existing grant, take the old ones, the old sections, and update them. Save as, make them for 2026 submission, and start updating everything that you can ASAP. What you can't update, like maybe it's going to be the same target area you think, okay, update. If you're not sure, highlight whatever areas or insert notes of things you have to check, but start putting something together. You'll feel a heck of a lot better if you simply take your old proposal, take it apart, save as, but I'm not wanting you to complete, you need to really update it. I don't mean someone to think, oh, Lisa said just submit your old proposal. No, I said take the old proposal, tear it apart into different sections, and start revamping the heck out of it. Okay, so many things have changed. So many things have changed. We probably have a lot of language in there that we shouldn't, or wording that we used before forever and a day, and now we need to be careful about that. But you want to start with the budget, ASAP, the needs section, updating that ASAP, making it better, stronger, and then the applicant and community support, definitely. You want to be working on that because that takes a minute. And then that comes into play with the letters and things like that. All right, so I believe this is being shared. This is in the Google Drive. And Teresa, just let me know when you're ready, and I can always answer another question. Do you think EOC or Talent Search will be released first? Any chance they're released at the same time? Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody out there who's been there a minute more than me, I've never seen them released at the same time. If I remember correctly, it's always been Talent Search first and then EOC, maybe a month apart. This last time it was Talent Search in February, I believe, and then EOC in March. I may have that wrong because that was the year of the Great Texas ice storm, and they did allow some of us in Talent Search to have an additional 2 weeks, or was it EOC? I can't remember. It was so messed up. But I don't think they'll ever do it at the same time. I could be wrong, but I don't remember ever coming out at the same time. And I've always remembered Talent Search being a month before EOC. but, that's just, my guess. And I don't know if Teresa, if you have anything to update on that, if you remember Talent EOC ever going first before Talent Search, I could be wrong.
No, I don't recall in the history of the competitions that I've been involved in, that they were ever EOC was ever released prior to Talent Search. It's usually about a month afterward,
Right.
because we had both. So so the
Yeah,
whole
so you would know. You would definitely know. I'll be sharing the Talent Search version on the screen if you want to talk about, or if you want to share about the CPPs. What would you like to do? Do you want to share or just speak to the?
yes, I can share the information about the CPPs.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing.
I'm gonna share. Let's see. Okay. So there was this is in regards to the negotiated rulemaking. But these were the proposed priorities and definitions for supplemental priorities. And so basically they were revolved around, and this was back, when was this? This was back in April 21, 2025. I have not looked for an update of this, but I don't know that it's actually been published, but this was these were the proposed supplemental priorities. So they are revolved around evidence-based literacy, education choice, and returning education to the states. So those were the three that were actually proposed. And so just digging a little bit deeper into what that means. And we know that historically there's about 9 or 10, but this time there's only about three. There's only three that have been recommended. And so let's see. Let me get down to so priority one, promoting evidence-based literacy. Again, that may be some element of your program if you're providing tutoring or something of that sort. They do go into a little bit of detail about some of the specifics as far as the actual proposed priority. Advance, increase, or expand evidence-based literacy instruction, or focus on evidence-based literacy instruction as defined in the notice. So again, there may be an element that potentially may be carved out for particularly talent search as it relates to that particular one. Um, the proposed priority two was expanding educational choice background. So I'm not really sure how that would fold into the work that we do in our projects. Um, but you're more than welcome to dig deeper because let me see here. It has increased access to public charter schools. So that's a lot of out of the scope of what we do, efforts to replicate and things of that sort. So a lot of this does not necessarily apply as it stands to what we do, but there may be a way to do that, but I'm not clear about we're not clear about what that might look like if that is one that is broken down. Proposed priority three, returning education to the states. Again, that's another one that's a little bit more broader than the scope of the work that we do, specifically in our work in Talent Search and EOC. So I'm not really sure, how that might fit into what we do. But what I will say is, so I have, written a couple of federal grants recently. And so what some of I know that there's an element that may be potentially, again, this is all speculation, there was an executive order regarding artificial intelligence integration and expanding that. So that may be a potential area of opportunity related to a competitive preference. Something specifically that I've seen in other federal programs is workforce development. So that there was in student support services, there was a competitive, no, historically, there have been a couple of competitive preference priorities related to workforce readiness and things of that sort. And of course, with Talent Search and EOC, the whole element of college access and career readiness and things of that sort may fold into the workforce element. Um, and then also, I know the last grant that I worked on, there was a competitive preference, or it was an invitational priority, I believe, around new programs. So I remember in one of the hearings, the Secretary of Education talked a little bit about the concern about programs that are new, not being funded or what have you. And so there may be, something around that. That was one of the invitational priorities in the grant that I just submitted that was federal. So they were given priority to programs that did not currently have that particular project. So again, all of this is speculation. You know, and those are my thoughts. So Lisa, I don't know if you have anything to add, but that's kind of where I am. So again, right now it's kind of like a blank slate for me, meaning I don't really have an opinion about it because it's just too early to really know what it's going to look like.
Right, it is. And can y'all hear me okay? I don't know what's going on with my audio. I've been on Zoom all morning, but can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, can you hear me clearer, Donna, than before?
Yes, I think it's better than before.
I don't know what's going on, but anyway, so you could hear me. And let me go ahead and I just wanted, the only thing I wanted to add, Teresa, is that we did have, based on there's a link to that document you just shared in the blog posting we did, understanding the possible implications of the proposed supplemental priorities. So we do have some information here, and I put that in the link that I put in the chat in case you want to check that out. And it basically covered what, Teresa was mentioning, and also it has a link to the actual document that Teresa was showing you. I think that's what it is right here, Teresa, right? It's an older document. So that's there, posted there as a blog post. Most of y'all already members, so you will get it. And you can always go back and look, but it was on June 25th when we published that. Okay. So let me go ahead and stop sharing. And let me see, we have another question. And thank you for those, somebody had answered about the, oh gosh, when the proposals came out, the extension, yeah. And also, I think we have a question and Q&A here. The wording of the received 25-26 GANs, do they have the future years listed? I know that it was always tentative, but I wonder if they were listed, especially with us being zeroed out. I also have noticed the recent SSS announcements only state the 1-year award and not the 5-year award amount. On the GANs, I really can't say because I've heard that they got the number of participants is like 0, and also the time and effort of the project director is 0%. So I think they're going to have to reissue them. I saw on Facebook where somebody spoke to their program officer about it and said, oh yeah, those went out incorrectly for the SSS competition at least, or the people who got their GANs. We're gonna have to redo them. I don't know if you heard anything, Teresa, but I've heard of that of my clients also asking me, and I said, well, what I heard is that they acknowledged that there was an issue and they're going to reissue some updated GANs. As for the future funding listed, I've heard some people say, I haven't seen any directly, that they did see the future years, but the future years, just because it's there, doesn't mean one way or another. I don't know if they forgot. I've heard they're all messed up, basically, that they're incorrect. Teresa, I don't know if you heard anything from your clients that you've been working with directly about that.
No, I've not heard any concern or anything about their GAN.
Okay, yeah, most of the folks I've heard to say, hey, it's wrong. My time and effort is wrong. Um, you know, uh, what's up with that? And I'm like, oh no, I don't know what to tell you, except that I did see on Facebook that someone had said, yeah, they acknowledged that they were incorrect. Has anyone else heard anything different, or have you received, or if you're with SSS, could you tell that has happened or that's off? Thanks for sharing about when they were listed. I've noticed only state the 1-year award. Well, when you say the SSS announcements, do you mean, and you may have to reply to this, the funding, the list, the list that came out the Thursday before, I think July 3rd came out the list, and it had all the states, all the projects by state, and they've always historically just put the 1-year funding. They haven't it's always been 1 year. I've always seen it as 1 year. Maybe I'm wrong, but in years past. So the recent SS announcement only states the 1 year. Right, Teresa?
Yes, that's right. It's historically the slate only has 1 year.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for, the slate. So you have several people helping you so you can piece it together. Right. So that doesn't mean anything. It's always been that way. And I think the handful of people that I've spoken to, I believe they have seen the future years. But again, that's just plugged in automatically, I believe. Okay. And I heard they have to redo a bunch of them anyway.
Mhm.
Any other questions you'll have?
about anything, let's, in the meantime, I'll just review again what's in the drive. I think we have 3 questions, but I think I've answered them. Let me see. Curious to receive GANs. Okay, yeah, I need to go ahead and cancel and say answer live, done. Oh, do we need to include detailed costs for every line item or just major categories? Well, let me tell you what you should include. Let me go to EOC. I thought we put a sample, maybe we didn't. Talent search somewhere here. I thought we put a sample budget. Yeah, here we did. I need to do that for EOC. And let me share, sorry. I don't think I'm sharing quite yet. We'll do that. Great question. Here it is. Okay. And let me make a note to put at EOC budget. Okay. So unless they change the categories, again, everything's based off of the old format. I always do my budget in Excel first. And this is pretty close to what it will look like in Word when I convert it to Word or put it in the Word version for the proposal. Obviously, your personnel cost, your fringe, we break it down. If it's more than 20%, I break it down like this. And look at the narrative here. We have narrative. This is, by the way, in the Google Drive. For talent search, I'll make sure EOC has one as well. But little description here is all you need for each section. The fringe benefit, again, I mentioned that if it's over 20%, it doesn't mean it can't be over 20%. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to be less than 20%. I mean, it's just not possible. We've got some ranging up to 73% fringe, which is based on the institution. So I always let them know that this is calculated per agency or college policies. Not me, it's them. And I show an estimated breakdown. It may or may not be perfect, but when it's all said and done, it provides me at least what I need. I mean, if anything, I want to go a little bit higher in fringe and salary, right? Because these programs, both EOC and Talent Search, are people powered. I mean, we need to have staff to make this thing happen. If we have anything left over for supplies, fine. But we can deal with, if we had no supplies and we had people, we could get this done. So we want to make sure you cover that. And then on the travel, I would recommend if you have any money left over for travel, that you break it down in this manner. Okay. The conferences, the per diem for how many days, hotel lodging. I highlighted regional and state conference because typically you don't have enough money in your first year budget in the proposal to do this. And then I mentioned, the narrative here. Participant travel. Again, if you have any participant travel, you want to make sure there's a cost for participant. I lost points one year. I can't believe I did this. This is why, you never know. I lost points on a talent search proposal in the budget section of all places because I had put college field trips and transportation and meals, and I think we had $6,000. And I didn't break it down. I didn't say how many trips, for example, and this is just estimating how many students on each trip, how much it would cost. And there was a student leadership conference involved, and I didn't do that. And I should have done that. I should have broken it down by this. Supplies, I break it down. It's the major category, but I need to talk about what are consumable office supplies versus technology, computer and printers for the staff, the project database. If I had money for this, tutor training materials, instructional supplies. So what about some curriculum? Like I said, I may not have this money. If I have to put most of my money in personnel and fringe, I may not end up with hardly any money in this category, but I want to make sure I have my database, some office supplies, and some computers and printers for the staff. Or maybe not even printers, but scanners, whatever. And then a little explanation on that. Now, again, when I know what the CPPs are, and if there is mention in the budget section instructions in the RFP or the program application, in the past, they have said, make sure you mention in your budget the costs associated with implementing the CPPs. I don't know what they are right now. So I know that I have to maybe come back to the budget and add it in or stress that certain things will be used for the CPP. I'm hoping that it's stuff that we're going to do anyway, and I could just stress or connect the focus to the CPPs. Then under other is where we put our telephone, our postage, our printing, maybe our database training. If we have any money, yellow means there was no money left in the budget. If I'm renting a printer, the travel for the staff to go to conferences and trainings, the cost there comes under other, not under travel. And then a little blurb about that, basically reading it for the reader, you know, what we just looked at. And then I do the direct cost, the modified total direct cost excludes participant travel and rental fees. The indirect cost for most of us, if not all of us, it's 8%. And that's 8% of the total minus any student travel or rental fees. And we tend to have, in our talent search projects, we always tended to have a little bit of rental fees because we're renting maybe the high-speed copiers or things back in the day, or office space, grand total, and then divide it by the number of participants to always get the number of participants served. So this is basically what we developed first of all, to see what I can afford. And usually without any carryover, it's very, very tight, very, very tight. So you can usually do it within an hour or so, if not, you know, if you don't have that much money, it doesn't take that long to do the budget. But at least it lets you know, where, like here, I have no money for tutors. So I better try to find some money to have online tutoring here, or, like I don't. So the issue is here that I've got to make sure I have no other choice but to say I'm going to refer students for tutoring. And the thing is, in Talent Search, they want you to refer to or make a connection to high quality tutoring. So now I have to really beef up, if the school's doing the tutoring, why it's high quality. You know, I can have a little bit control over that if I was paying tutors and training them, or purchasing an online tutoring system. So I could say, well, it's high quality because blah, 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 the vendor, research, whatever. But now I have to kind of sell the reader that, oh, don't worry, I'm doing the requirement of connections to high quality tutoring because we refer to the school's tutoring program, but that still doesn't mean it's high quality. I have to explain why that would be high quality. So again, this is to answer that question. You don't want to go too much into detail, but you do have to provide some sort of detail. And also it's planning to let you know where you don't have money. And of course if I don't have money for cell phones here, I'm not going to, put this in the proposal budget. I would remove those items so you wouldn't see them on the final version. Or internally, I could say, look, the college is going to have to pay, or someone's going to have to help me out with the items in yellow. I mean, they don't have to. You don't have to go on paper to the conference. You don't have to have database training. Heck, you don't have to have the cell phones right now. I mean, a lot of people use their own personal phones anyway for right now. You don't have to have the printing. I could probably take out of there. You don't have to have postage, that kind of thing. But it would be stronger if you could get, more and more. So, we're having to rely on getting some institutional help with some of these things because salaries and fringe take up so much of the budget. So that's why you want to do the budget first. I would stick to this level of detail for your grant budget. And also, again, this is just the Excel version, and then the Word version would look very similar to it, except I would exclude the things that I couldn't pay for unless we had someone paying for it, like the college. Right, so I'm going to stop sharing here and go back to some of the questions. Let's see here, bear with me. Okay, let me see here. Oh, they're there. So the major categories, but you do have to have some answers there. So I'm going to answer that live. The congressman's office has made PR releases. So yes, the congressman's offices, and all they have is the annual, the first year only. Is a project database Bloom, and that's one of those. There's so many other, you could name it by name. I usually say project database in parentheses Bloom just once. Let's see here. Can you elaborate more on the 8% indirect cost minus student costs? What are things that the institution cannot collect that 8% on? Okay, great. So the 8%, participant support costs. Participant support costs cannot be counted toward the indirect cost. All right, so that means student travel, usually for us in Talent Search and EOC, more so in Talent Search because EOC doesn't do a lot of student travel, but any costs associated with student travel, meals, rental of transportation, lodging, whatever that cost is. So if that adds up to be $10,000 of your budget, once you add up all your budget categories, okay, the total cost, each, let me go ahead and share again, just to make it easier here when I'm looking at that budget. Annually, I do this a little different, but in the proposal, they wanted it in this order, right? So I'm following the order of personnel, which is a direct cost. Fringe is a direct cost. Travel, now staff travel is a direct cost. But now participant travel is an indirect cost. I'm sorry, it does not get counted toward your college does not get this $4,000, for example. But it's kind of tricky because I have to leave it in the same order under staff travel. Here's participant travel. So basically everything stays the same for a second here, where I added up, the $4,000 is there. And then if I had under other, see how I have rental? Well, I don't have the cost here, so that's kind of confusing. But if I had rental cost, then that amount I also have to deduct from the total cost. And I have a formula down there, but I leave it here. The other thing is rental, if some of y'all have to pay rent for your office, that's not on campus, like EOC sometimes have to pay rent. So that would count here. So initially everything is cool, right? Everything stays the same until we get to total direct cost, which is a combination of all those categories, 1 through 8 initially. But then I have to do a little formula change here. And if you notice, I think I'm covering it, but I'm deducting in the formula. I went back and I took away participant travel, which was about the $4,000. And I didn't have anything in rental, but if I had, it would have taken that away. And this lower amount, since it excludes rental and participant travel, this lower amount is what we multiply the 8% by, not the higher amount, because that includes participant travel and rental. The lower amount here, see the formula? I went ahead and took it off there, multiplied that times 8%, and that's what the college gets to have. Okay, the college no longer gets 8% of participant support costs, which for Talent Search and EOC basically means student travel and rental fees, right? And that's what they get, but then I still add this plus this to get the total here. Okay. And then divide it by that. It's a little wonky because it got really confusing because this has been around, this modified total direct cost, since about 2014. But that's like brand new to TRIO, because TRIO has been around since 1960 something, 65, right? So something popping up like this as of 2014 barely is getting around here. The Department of Ed, even on their federal forms, doesn't have a line item for that. So that's more confusing when you try to do this. And in the instructions, they finally for SSS updated to address modified total direct costs, but they still wanted you to put it, leave it alone and put student travel up here. But that means I have to make sure to deduct it again. In my real budget on an annual basis, I have student travel under here already. So I don't have to worry about deducting it. And that's what I thought we could do moving forward. But the proposal, and again, maybe they'll catch up with us. But for right now, I follow the order. I talk about student travel earlier, but I have a formula. I make sure to take it out here at the bottom. Okay, so it is confusing, but participant support costs, that's something that your college can no longer get 8% of. Okay, that's the main thing, and any rental fees. So let me stop sharing. I think we have a couple more questions. And I'm going to go here to bring up the questions. Okay, answer that live. And we have is the budget in the shared drive? Yes, this is in the shared drive under talent search. I need to upload, or I can't find the one for EOC. I thought I had done it for EOC. But this is in the talents in the lunch and learn. Let me show you exactly where it's at. If I can find my mouse. There we go. There we go. 3 different screens and I still can't find what I'm looking for. All right. So you're sharing that. I'm going to go back here. You should see this here. So this is the lunch and learn drive, and you've got a folder for talent search. That's where I was in. In the talent search one, you'll see it's the Excel budget right there. And then in the EOC one, I thought for sure I had one. I need to upload that. And I will upload that one. The EOC version, because we do have one. We've got sample letters of commitment. Again, we've got information about the new GEPA that you want to become familiar with. In fact, you know, for all of those, if you're, since we can't mess with the CPPs yet, because we don't know what they are, I can tell you, we know how the GEPA is going to look, the new one. And y'all have never, for talent search, had experienced this new type of GEPA format. The questions, I think, Teresa, are pretty much the same, but the way you respond and who you're responding for, it used to be for your any program through your college, through the Department of Ed, and now you have to customize it just for talent search. So the talent search one will look different than it will for the EOC one. Similar, but still different. Gone is the blanket statement that you could have used for 20, 30 years, because this is they've changed it in the first time in 30 years. So I do know what those questions are. So you might want to check out the GEPA folder. And you can access this right now, whether you're EOC or talent search, become one with that. You could even start parts of it. You could start working off of, maybe use parts of your old response that across the board for a couple of the questions, but there are going to be 2 questions on there that you're going to customize based on your completed proposal pretty much, or at least your plan of operation. So that's something, if you are, you know, dying to work on the CPPs, I would actually recommend you start looking at the GEPA statement, right? There's also sample letters of commitment, MOUs, then there's a talent search folder. Then we've got the compliance review, some terminology here that we have, words that you might want to check as you're updating your proposal from last time. If you're deconstructing it and, you know, going through it line by line to make it better, you might want to look for some of these words here to remove or revise. And we broke it down, you know, by sections here. So you might want to check that out. We've got some information about our services. We also have our classes are going to be starting. The talent search and EOC proposal writing workshops will now be on a demand class structure with timestamps, and so that you can, it's a live, it was a recorded live, of course, but then we've set it to, you know, at your own pace. And also you can go back and look at stuff, and it'll ask you questions at the very end, and also give you a to-do list, task list at the end of everything. So we wanted to make it so that, you know, it's really hard for people to dedicate 2 whole days, and it's hard for us to present, and it's hard for y'all to absorb, you know, that. So we broke it down into bits and pieces. So you want to check that out. I think we're going to have that maybe ready in the next couple of weeks. In the meantime, you can get our on-demand recordings like we've always had, but we're trying something new. We've also got some overview of the executive orders and Department of Ed clarification if you want to do that. Here's also something Gear Up provided as trigger words and phrases that they actually made us go back and redo the submission, which was fun. Looking for stuff and to take stuff out. So anyway, you know, just take a look at it. I know it could be overwhelming, but imagine if you only had 10 days to do that to a proposal and you're under the gun. So check it out, kind of absorb it, look, compare it to what you have. You know, I think that would be a good use of time right now, as well as since you're going to be working on those pieces as you deconstruct your sections, and to start updating them, not only for content, but check for words that you're using. Yes, well, that's the only way, that's how we do it, Sharon. Any proposal, whether it's new or an existing one, I don't want to see the whole thing. You know how I work so hard, or we all work so hard to ultimately put it all together at the very end to make it fit under 65 pages. Edit here, a sentence here, a space here. Finally, then add table of contents. So it sounds almost crazy that we're now taking it apart, but you have to. You have to take it apart. So I would definitely take your 2020 proposal and deconstruct it, save as 2026 version, and start there with the needs section number 1. The need and budget, if someone can help you with the budget, or you know what, do the budget first in Excel. And then that'll take a minute because we hardly have any money left, you know, in either grant with no carryover, and then start working on the needs section only. That's going to take a while, but as soon as you start it, then work on it for a day or so, and then open up your applicant and community support section and get someone on your team to start updating that. You know, I want you to read line for line, make sure that you say that you will, that you have letters of commitment or MOUs on file. Now, if you say we will have letters, you could lose a point like I did, because the reader said, oh, you should have had those letters already. And I've always written that way in the future, that we will get these. No. That they wanted the letters. They wanted me to say the letters are on file right now, this very minute. And that's what cost me to lose. Well, it was an existing proposal, which was crazy. So I could have said, yeah, we have them on file. So it didn't cost the program to not get funded. But some of those things, you know, 5 years ago, a lot of those places have gone away or changed hands, or, you know, changed names. So that, you know, the budget, the needs section, and the applicant and community support for both Talent Search and EOC, to me, because they're out of my control and I have to depend on other sources or other people to confirm or get me that information, to me, take the longest. So those are the 3 that I would do right away: budget, need, and applicant and community support. The budget first, and the need and applicant and community support at the same time. Maybe getting my team to help me with that. Then, of course, once I get the budget done, then it'll give me a good idea of the plan of operation, how to update that. Okay. Quality personnel, I'm struggling with, because I know I have to go through there and probably change a lot of the language there, and still the questions, I don't think they'll have time to change the question, but my answer will have to be worded very differently than before. And I know that. And then, you know, my evaluation plan, you know, I'll probably do closer to the end. And notice my very last section to complete and finalize is the objective section, because I've got to have all the data from the needs section in order to plug in my percentages. I mean, I can start drafting an objective section, but it requires the 50% of the objective section for me is repeating some of the needs section. So if I don't have some of the needs section done, that's 50% I can't get done. But the other 50% is based on my plan of operation, on the ambitious, yet on the attainable part. You know, the needs section data repeat is to say why something, a percentage you said, is ambitious. Then for the attainable, I talk about a preview of what we're going to do. Well, I got to do the budget so I can do that and kind of, you know, focus on certain things. And be prepared that nothing is going to be finalized until, you know, you get the RFP, the program application. But the idea is that you want to make sure that you start working on this based on what we know, which is the 2021 RFP or program application, which is also in the Google Drive. Make sure even when you deconstruct your existing proposal, that the questions are listed there, that they match the 2021 RFP exactly. They should. And you want to start getting that together. and having the draft, and you'll feel a heck of a lot better once you have 1 or 2 sections, you know, in the process. Or maybe you have them all deconstructed and all updated, and you just go through and do a Grammarly check. If anything, go through and then highlight anything right now that, ooh, I bet I'm gonna have to change that. Let me highlight this. I guess what I'm saying is deconstruct, do a Grammarly check on it, if anything, and then just highlight right now. Don't try to answer or address every change right now, but get them separated and kind of highlight so you can come back later and, you know, you know, realize, okay, I looked at this before, not, you know, I was worried about it before. Now, since I had a time to absorb and work on some other stuff, I'm looking at it a second time. It doesn't seem so daunting. Okay. And that's what I tend to do. Initially, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much here I need to change. Okay, let's just highlight that. I'm not going to think about fixing it right now. The main point is that I'm identifying something that I need to come back and look at for sure. Okay, but we stop thinking about all the other stuff that is okay. We're just looking at that and then come back again. So that by the time the RFP comes out, the program application comes out, you want to have all your sections already drafted, some of them almost completely done, some of them pending and waiting for those CPPs to find out where we can put them in, probably, you know, depending on what they are, I don't know. They might have to be included in the budget. They might have to be mentioned in the plan of operation, but we don't know yet. But your whole thing is that you should have everything pretty much wrapped up so that you spend the time that you have left to piece it all together again and to work on the CPPs and finalize the percentages and things like that. You don't want to be starting, okay? But looking at everything all together, yes, with anything, even if you're going for new funding and you don't have a section, we start dividing the questions and put a Word document that just has the question and nothing there. And have, you know, if there's 4 major sections in the grant and sub questions there, we put them there and there's nothing there already, we feel a lot better. Then we start assigning and working on answering on that. But to put it all together, no. There's no changes or updates really, Cindy. I mean, we don't know anything about the CPPs until the RFP comes out. We do have some information on our blog, you know, I think it's June 25th, where we did put out what we think might be the CPPs, but we don't know for sure how the wording will be. That's just the broad topic. They have to work on those, refine them, and in a way tell us exactly how they want us to address that, you know, because it just could say, what was one of them, Teresa, I forget, but that could be the title, but that doesn't mean, you know, we still have to wait to get exactly what the question is. Okay. Do you also name your community partners in the needs section? Yes, when I need them to, when I'm asking them to tell me about why there's so many low-income families in the area, why do they think? Or to tell me the GED director, why so many, so few individuals on their own apply for admissions or get a GED within a year, within 18, within a year. And so I would name them there. You know, I would say, you know, Lisa Redmozo, director of the GED program, states the following reasons why, or according to blah, 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 that kind of thing. Almost like I'm writing a newspaper article, right? For to get interview folks to get their qualitative and sometimes quantitative information about the target area. So then some of them will be named again in the plan of operation, where there's a section, a question about collaboration with you know, agencies. Also in the plan of operation, the plan to inform. So some of them will pop up again. And then in the applicant and community support. So maybe in the needs section is the first time you mention some of the people or some of the agencies, because they're helping you show the need with what information they give you and can give you. And then they pop up again in the plan of operation a couple of times, depending on the question. And then they come up again in the applicant community support. Okay. Especially in EOC a lot. Very much in EOC. Any other questions? Let's see. Do we have anything in the chat? We have one more question. Let me see. Again. How do we describe qualitative evaluation methods without taking too much space? Well, again, qualitative based on perceptions, on feelings. Those could be your surveys that you try to get from students immediately based on their receiving a service. And you can talk about them. Now, you want to make sure you talk about it kind of starts with mentioning to the reader that you have internal goals that feed into the objectives, right? In Talent Search, we have the 5 objectives, and EOC, the 4 objectives. But we have a whole bunch of activities we do that fall under one of those objectives. And those goals, to measure their effectiveness, are either qualitative or quantitative. You know, one of your goals could be on the customer satisfaction, could be qualitative. And another one could be for Talent Search, the percentage of students that are recruited for both EOC, recruited every month or by a certain period of time. That's a quantitative goal. So to save space, I put it in a chart. And I say the following 5 internal goals will be based on qualitative and quantitative methods. And then I list the goal, and then I put in parentheses right there in case the reader is not sure or tired. I basically label it and say, this is qualitative, this is quantitative. And I will tell you, most of the time we have a lot of quantitative goals and fewer qualitative. Okay, but that's one way where you could keep it short and sweet and not go on and on and on about it. Okay. Base it on internal goals. Say that some will be qualitative and quantitative, and label them. And we do have some examples when we talk about in our grant writing workshop. We have a whole session where we talk about some sample EOC goals and sample Talent Search internal goals that feed to the objectives. And we say that this would be a really good, strong response to that part of the evaluation plan in both EOC and Talent Search that asks, what are the methods to monitor progress toward meeting the objectives during the year? Formative. So it's also an answer to the formative part of the evaluation. Okay. And it's tables and charts, basically. All right, I think we've got all our questions answered. I want to thank you all so much. If you please could, any questions that come up, please, you can email me at info@nosotros. And also we'll put my email address in the chat. Let's see, the recording will be ready and on our YouTube channel along with all the other recordings. So if you came on late, it'll be there. And don't forget to sign up for our workshops that are coming up, are on demand right now and also available in the shop. And we're going to have that course out there that we're real excited about. And we're trying to make it so it's the best learning experience. And also you can get a break in between. So you could be working on a section, at a time while you're, going through the course instead of having to sit through 2 whole days of nonstop, workshops. But this way you can work on your own pace and go back and study each one individually as you work on your section. So we're hoping that's going to be helpful. So thank you all so much. I hope that you all got something from this today, and I hope you have a great week and hope to see you next week. Thanks, Teresa, Leah, and Donna as well. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.